Picture this: a marble hall bathed in the flickering glow of golden torches. Shadows dance along gilded walls, stretching and twisting like restless spirits. The air is thick, heavy with the scent of incense, sweat, and something darker, anticipation laced with fear. You awaken in the center of this hall, and immediately the weight of his presence presses down. The Emperor has arrived. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and tell us where you're watching from. His footsteps echo, deliberate and slow, resonating through the hall. Nobles freeze mid-whisper, hands trembling, as if caught in a trap invisible to the eye. One misstep, one faltering bow, and ruin awaits. Some call him charismatic, others a tyrant possessed. Perhaps he is both. His gaze sweeps the room, magnetic yet suffocating, pulling every soul into an invisible net of obedience and dread. Can you imagine standing there, heart hammering, knowing your life, or at least your reputation, depends on every measured gesture? Whispers ripple through the hall like a silent tide. Forbidden rituals, ceremonies that twist devotion into spectacle. Obedience here is no longer a duty, it is a performance, and every glance is scrutinized. Behind the veneer of splendor, the first seeds of scandal are planted. Some sources say these ceremonies are symbolic. Others insist they are intimate and coercive. Either way, the tension is palpable. You feel it in the stiffened posture of courtiers, in the quick, nervous glances between servants, in the quiet prayers whispered under breath. Fear and desire collide in a dangerous dance, and the court stands on the edge of ruin. The Emperor retreats, leaving only the lingering shadow of his obsession, and with it, the promise that the next act will be darker, more intimate, and inescapable. The wall, gilded corridors stretching endlessly, marble floors gleaming under the flickering torchlight. At first glance, it seems a palace of splendor, gold leaf, intricate mosaics, delicate tapestries. But behind the grandeur lurks something far more sinister. You awaken here and immediately feel the walls closing in. Luxury is no longer a comfort. It is a trap, a cage crafted to crush the spirit of anyone who dares breathe freely. Servants scurry like shadows, eyes hollow, bodies tense. Courtiers whisper, glances darting to hidden corners, as if the walls themselves are listening. Every hallway conceals betrayal. Every doorway hides secrets. Imagine walking these corridors, knowing that a wrong word, a misstep, or a glance in the wrong direction could ruin your life. Can you feel that tension? The silent suffocation of constant surveillance, where loyalty is demanded but never earned. The Emperor's obsession grows, weaving its way into every detail of the palace. Rules shift without warning. Favor today could mean ruin tomorrow. Fear becomes a language and obedience a performance. Some sources say these subtle manipulations were calculated to break spirits. Others argue they merely reflected the paranoia of power, but the effect is the same. Picture courtiers stiff with tension, hands trembling, hearts hammering with dread. Servants exchange hurried coded warnings, knowing that one slip could end in disgrace, or worse. Every shadow seems to pulse with menace. Every whisper carries the weight of judgment. By the time night falls, the palace has revealed its true nature. Not a home of grandeur, but a labyrinth of fear. It consumes its own, turning privilege into terror, and leaving those trapped within its walls to navigate a world where survival depends on cunning, obedience, and silence. A heavy silk curtains, embroidered with gold, swaying softly as a draft, whispers through the room. Beyond them, acts unfold that defy morality and common sense. You awaken to the sound of faint music, lutes, flutes, and the soft murmur of voices, yet beneath it, a tension that chills the blood. Pleasure and terror are intertwined here, orchestrated under the emperor's watchful eye. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and tell us where you're watching from. The emperor moves through his court with quiet authority, transforming what should be private indulgence into a spectacle of fear. Courtiers tremble, balancing obedience with horror, aware that a single misstep could lead to disgrace or worse. Some sources say these ceremonies were purely symbolic, a display of ritualized control. Others insist they were intimate, coercive, and horrifyingly real. Regardless, the audience, standing with us in the flickering torchlight, feels the crushing inevitability of this power. Imagine the smell of incense mixed with wine, the whisper of silk against marble, the faint gasps and murmurs behind locked doors. Every act corrodes both the ruler and the ruled, eroding humanity in small, deliberate increments. You sense the fear in the courtiers' eyes, the hesitation in their movements, the silent complicity forced upon them. In this gilded chamber, obedience is a performance, and morality a fragile veneer. The emperor's obsession leaves no corner untouched, no heart untested. By the time the curtains fall, the boundaries between power, terror, and desire have dissolved, leaving a court trapped in a dark, inescapable rhythm of ritual, fear, and control. The flicker of torchlight casting shadows across the cold stone corridors, each step echoing like a warning. In hushed tones, names are whispered. Names of victims trapped by the emperor's obsession, coerced into complicity or destroyed by fear. You awaken to the oppressive hush, the almost tangible weight of dread pressing down on every soul. Some courtiers tremble, others stiffen, yet all move as if strings tug at their very limbs. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and tell us where you're watching from. Fear spreads like a slow poison. Alliances crumble silently in dark corners. Whispered betrayals echo louder than shouts. Every name carries a story of betrayal, survival, lost innocence, or quiet despair. Servants exchange secret messages, plotting tiny acts of defiance, while others submit fully, eyes downcast, hearts broken. Can you imagine living in such a gilded cage, where every word might condemn you and every glance could be your undoing? Tension thickens with every muted step, every swallowed breath. The palace is a crucible, forging anxiety into obedience, despair into compliance. Each whispered secret reminds the audience. Power comes at a human cost. The emperor's gaze, though unseen, feels omnipresent. Even the smallest act of rebellion risks annihilation, yet the human instinct to survive flickers like a hidden flame, refusing to be extinguished. By the time the night stretches on, the echoes of these whispered names linger, imprinting themselves on both the hall and the soul. History here is not only written in golden ink, but in hushed cries, silenced rebellions, and the invisible scars left on those forced to endure. A vast hall alive with torchlight, golden candelabras flickering across polished marble floors. Music drifts through the air, soft lutes, distant flutes. But beneath the melody lies a tension, sharp and unyielding. You awaken in the midst of a grand banquet, where wine flows like rivers and laughter masks something far darker. The emperor sits at the head of the table, eyes sweeping the hall, controlling every gesture, every glance, every heartbeat. Rites of pleasure and pain unfold under the guise of divine will. Courtiers are trapped in this intricate web, their fear and obedience manipulated by superstition and spectacle. Imagine the scent of roasting meats mingled with perfume, and the faint, bitter tang of terror. Music crescendos, masking cries, whispered protests, and the soft shuffle of trembling feet. Shock mingles with empathy as we witness the suffering. of those ensnared by obsession and power. Some sources suggest these feasts were symbolic displays of authority, while others insist they were intimate and coercive, forcing participants into acts that blurred the lines of morality and devotion. Either way, the emperor's obsession escalates, the spectacle growing grotesque, stretching the limits of endurance and decency. By the end of the feast, the audience feels the weight of power twisted into terror. The hall, once a place of indulgence, becomes a chamber of oppression. History is not merely written in gold and wine, but in the hushed cries, broken spirits, and indelible scars left on those who endured. The grand hall, once vibrant with music and laughter, now echoes with suspicion, whispers, and the faint tremor of fear. You awaken to a world where power has corroded the mind and obsession has become mania. The emperor sees betrayal in every smile, conspiracies in every glance. Courtiers move cautiously, hearts hammering, eyes darting, knowing that even loyalty could be twisted into a crime. Rituals grow darker, more complex, designed to test the limits of obedience. Every feast, every assembly, every gesture becomes a tool of manipulation. The emperor's madness is no longer hidden. It bleeds into every corner of the palace. Some sources say paranoia fueled these actions, while others argue they were calculated, displays of absolute control. But the result is the same. Cruelty escalates, morality decays, and despair spreads like wildfire. Imagine the smell of burning torches mingling with the acrid scent of sweat, the silence broken only by soft, fearful whispers. Courtiers tremble as commands grow unpredictable, punishments harsher, and expectations impossible. Each act of obedience feels hollow, each rebellion dangerous, each glance a potential accusation. On screen, shadowy figures in corridors, trembling, hands passing secret notes. By the time the night stretches on, chaos reigns not only in the court, but in the mind of the emperor himself. The audience witnesses history and horror entwined, a ruler unhinged by obsession, a palace gripped by fear. Obsession has consumed both ruler and realm, leaving devastation in its wake. And so, the story reminds us, absolute power, when fused with unchecked desire and paranoia, becomes a force that destroys not only the innocent, but the very soul of its wielder. Can humanity survive when the mind that commands is itself broken? The grand palace, once gleaming with opulence, now trembling under the weight of its own corruption. You awaken to corridors filled with whispered accusations, hurried steps, and eyes darting like prey. Allies once bound by loyalty now turn against each other, plotting in shadows, each secret conversation a dagger aimed at the heart of the emperor's fragile control. Fear has begun to eat inward. The emperor, who once commanded obedience with a mere glance, now senses betrayal in every nod, conspiracy in every smile. The grand stage of courtly splendor fractures into chaos. Every whisper carries the potential to unravel alliances. Every glance could ignite scandal. Some historians argue these fractures were inevitable, while others insist the emperor's tyranny accelerated the collapse. But the result is unmistakable. The gilded court teeters on the edge of ruin. Imagine halls echoing with tension instead of music, shadows crawling where courtiers once laughed, and the scent of incense mingling with apprehension. On screen, flickering torches cast anxious silhouettes, servants and nobles exchanging fearful glances, secret letters sliding under doors. By the time night falls, the palace has revealed its true nature, a gilded cage, corroded from within. The very desire for control, the unbridled obsession, has destroyed the harmony it once imposed. Authority falters, chaos reigns, and the audience witnesses the destructive power of obsession firsthand. Absolute power has not only devoured the innocent, but has begun to devour the tyrant as well, leaving a realm fractured, fearful, and irrevocably scarred. The palace is silent now. The emperor is gone, yet the shadows he cast linger in every corridor, every whispered story, every scar left upon the souls who survived. You awaken to a world trying to make sense of the horror left behind. A court emptied of its tyrant, yet haunted by the echoes of obsession and cruelty. History remembers scandal, fear and abuse. The laws that follow, the cultural memory that endures, are shaped by the excesses of one man's desire. Some sources say his reign left Rome stronger in vigilance. Others insist it fractured trust and morality irreparably. Regardless, the stories survive, of those coerced, of those who resisted, and of those crushed beneath the weight of a ruler's obsession. Imagine families whispering warnings, courtiers avoiding corridors once alive with grandeur, and generations learning lessons etched in fear and suffering. Power fused with desire leaves indelible scars, not only on individuals but on history itself. The audience is left to reflect, can society ever fully recover from the shadow of obsession? Are the lessons learned or merely remembered as cautionary tales? And so, history remembers not only the emperor, not only the gilded halls of power, but also the forgotten souls who suffered in silence, their pain shaping the world in ways we often overlook. What do you think? Have we truly learned from their suffering, or do echoes of obsession still haunt the corridors of power today?